everyone, Jim Branscombe here for the Cinematic Void vlog. Now today I'm going to talk about a topic I have talked about before, usually in the Cinematic Void podcast and other means, but I haven't talked about it, in a while. And the reason why I'm doing is for, well, two reasons. One, there's an influx of people that have been coming to the Void YouTube channel through TikTok and things like that that don't know that the primary function of Cinematic Void is to show movies in a movie theater, specifically in Los Angeles, where I'm based out of. I have a weekly residency at the American Cinematheque at the Los Feliz 3 Theater, and, every week I show a different movie. And I also have a bi-monthly residency I do at the Frida Cinema in Santa Ana. And, there's things like January Giallo, where I collaborate with theaters across the country, and I've done other traveling screenings where I program stuff in other places and gone out and hosted and stuff like that. So I kind of want to talk about that just because there's, people coming here that's seen the top 10 list and filming locations, and they, might think that's cool, but all that stuff is to, help build interest in the screenings. And if people come to Los Angeles or want me to go out to their area and host a screening, hey, that's the whole point. So that's why, or one of the reasons why I'm talking about this again. The other reason is I recently had two sold out shows back to back, two completely different movies, and this was part of my weekly residency at the Los Feliz 3. The first one is the movie that's right behind my shoulder here, Joe Dante's The Howling, and I had Joe Dante and actor Belinda Blasky in person. And the other one was Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, one of the great Sam Peckinpah movies. Two different movies, two great movies, and I had a couple people that went to both screenings, which is interesting to me because, and I'll get into a little bit deeper as we talk about it, because I don't program that way that I think whoever's coming to Howling is also going to come to Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia. But there was a couple people that had reached out and, wanted to talk movies, and, I had some really good, great conversations with some movie people, and they were like, how do you pick the movies? So this is just more or less like a very simplified version of how I pick the movies. Now, if you are interested in this topic, I will encourage you to go check out the Cinematic Void podcast. There's an episode, it's episode 50 of the podcast, called So You Want to Be a Film Programmer, where I talk about all the ins and outs of film programming, sourcing prints, formats, the cost of shipping in prints, the cost of screening movies, rights, that kind of stuff. I'm not going to get in that here. So if you want to take a deeper dive, there's that. And besides that particular episode, I've also interviewed a bunch of my film programmer peers over the years across the country. And if you want to check that out, there's actually a playlist on YouTube with all those episodes. I'll link it somewhere in here. You can go check it out if you're interested. But how do I pick movies or the ones I'm screening? So I have one rule that I do bend and occasionally break, but not too often, is that I don't repeat movies. And the reason why I do that is because I want to make a challenge for myself, because there are certain movies that if you bust out once a year or, every few years, they will always do well. If you show John Carpenter's Halloween on Halloween, that's going to do pretty well. Or, you show Lawrence Arabia in 70mm, that's going to always do well. But for me, I just want that challenge that once I play a movie, it goes away and I have to pick something different. So it makes me dig deeper and think of, ways outside the box to, bring in movies that I don't, wouldn't think of otherwise. And part of it is that at this point, I've screened over 350 movies, I think, something like that, and done, over almost 250, 270 events, and that's not even counting the ones that I've done across the country with January Giallo and things like that. So this is just Los Angeles area. First off, I'll get into the specifics, and I'll just talk about what I've been recently doing, which is the weekly residency at the Los Feliz 3. Now, the American Cinematheque likes, to do monthly themes for all their series that they host, and, I kind of do it, and, I've definitely cheated and bended rules and stuff like that, but first thing I start with is what's the theme for the month, and sometimes I don't know what the fuck the theme is. And for those of you thinking themes, you can do movies of a particular genre, but I do cult films, so it's I could do a month of horror, but just doing random horror movies won't get you that far, so I always think a little deeper in that. But I try to just really mix it up, and I change it month to month. So 1 month will be horror centric, 1 month will be I'm currently doing kind of a greasy, bloody, kind of, different kind of Western month. I've done paranoid thrillers this year and things like that. And that's what I start with weeklies, like what's a theme? And usually I don't start with a theme. I think of a movie, and I think of it's usually one movie that kind of sparks it, and I think, what can I surround around this movie? So now, film programming, you got to pick movies, and you got to pick movies that people go to. And, if you pick bad picks and no one comes, you don't get to do it. So, you got to be mindful that this is not about like, hey, I'm just going to show my favorite movies kind of thing, which, I get to do sometimes, but like, you can't lean on that because your taste might not be everyone's taste. So you got a balance of like, things you really love, things you think people want to see, and things that will also make money. So anyway, for the theme, usually set on a theme, I usually find a movie that I can like plug some other movies around, because it's just like, I'll use the example, The Howling last month. It's like, Howling's my favorite all-time werewolf movie, and it's kind of wild that I waited 8.5 years into doing this to screen it, but it never kind of landed in a place where I thought like, hey, I should screen a Howling. It's, I knew I was always going to do it, but it's all about timing. And I had a different series planned in July. It doesn't matter what it was, but for a lot of reasons, I couldn't do it, and I had to plug something in. So I was like, I hadn't done horror really all year. I start every January with January Giallo, and then I kind of mixed up things, and I hadn't done a straight up like, horror movie banger type thing. So I was like, if I'm gonna do horror movies, I gotta have a deeper theme. So I was thinking, fall and the summer, because a lot of people associate horror movies with the fall, but this is in summer. And, I've done Camp Void and other summer series like that, but I just wanted something that was distinct and different. So I just thought of like kind of outdoorsy horror movies, but, not necessarily, summer camp, that kind of stuff. So I kind of knew I was going to do The Howling, and I know it starts out in the city, but there's a lot of wilderness in that movie. And I was thinking like, what? I've been wanting to show, I want to do The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which is the, Texarkana Killer movie, the original Charles B. Pierce one, not the remake from, I forget, 2012, 13, 14 era. And I was like, that kind of works. And then I was thinking that, I was like, what else could I do? It's like, what? I've had Pumpkinhead on my list. And I've actually had Pumpkinhead like in and out of different lineups throughout the year. I almost, before the intellectual properties series I did back in like May came together, I was going to do like childhood trauma and that kind of stuff, and Pumpkinhead was in there, and I kind of just pulled it out and ended up putting Monster Squad in and just stuck with the intellectual property type movies. So, and Pumpkinhead is pretty rural, lots of outdoorsy stuff, and I was like, that kind of fits with The Howling and Town That Dreaded Sundown. And then it's like, what else can I show? And then I was like, what, I want to show Motel Hell. That was a movie that's also been on my list for years, and I've just never found a place for it, and that's pretty much how I came to lineup. And it was a lineup that people were really excited about, and it did good. I mean, the previous month I had done a bunch of Hong Kong movies, and that did really well. So, also, this kind of goes in the other thing, is that, doing weekly screenings is different than doing monthly screenings and that kind of stuff. Because when I used to do monthly screenings for the Cinematheque, I could build up a single movie or a double feature, and sometimes a triple feature, and, be able to sell it out because I had a core audience, and just, figuring out a movie that would get some people that, were outside of the core to come to, so I could fill up the room. Now with weekly, I can't count on, having the same people coming every week, because people have different obligations. And also, I want to bring in different people because I want, to grow the audience. So that's why I kind of flip themes every month. So I can go from, paranoid thrillers in April, and then show Mac and Me in May. It's, I'm not, there are people that come to almost every screening I do, but like, those are few and far between. So I can't rely on like same people coming week to week. And also, you got to get new people in there. So that's philosophically how I pick movies. Now, when I used to do double features and triple features, stuff like that, that's a different kind of mindset, because then you're pairing movies exactly together. So, you could do like, 2 horror movies together, but if they're like really, there's no connective tissue or no way for them, like, that makes it seem like it's a really good double feature, then, you might get people because they're fans of one movie, fans of the other. But what I want to do is get people excited to sit through both movies, because that's important to me. Because, like, you know, if I'm picking two movies to play together, there's a reason why. And I'll kind of bring up a recent screening I did out of Frida. I did Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker, aka Night Warning, and Don't Go in the House. For me, going in, I knew it wasn't like the most like creative double feature, but it was a good double feature. Like, if you've seen those movies, there's some similar themes. They were both video nasties, and they're both really, really un-PC exploitation horror movies. And they played well with the crowd. People enjoyed them, and you know, that I succeeded with that. And sometimes, you know, just you can get really creative and get really weird. And like, you know, definitely I've done some weird double and triple features over the years, but sometimes there's something that like you just do something solid. And for the Frida, since like it's a newer residency for me, because I'm still trying to build it up and, you know, figure out what the audience is down there and what they're coming from. Because, like, you know, I've been experimenting. First thing I did was Demons, and Demons did really well. And I was like, well, I'll do Roadhouse, which Roadhouse always kills up in LA, but down in Santa Ana, not many people came out to it. So it's still a feeling out process. You know, that's what I do. I pick movies and I show them, and, you know, I've done pretty good. And like, again, like, it's really cool that I could sell out The Howling, and then next week sell out Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia. And, you know, again, it's really cool that there was a crossover of some people coming to the audience. Actually, there's people that showed up to The Howling that once they found out I was doing Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, they were like, oh man, that's one of my favorite movies. I definitely need to come back from that. And that's kind of the key, because even though it was going from the end of one theme into the new theme, you know, there are people that just love movies and will check out anything. And that's kind of the fun of it. And just like, you know, I don't like being stuck in one genre. And another thing that I kind of mentioned is, like, I always like to figure out how I can get movies that some people wouldn't consider maybe a cinematic void cult film into the series. You know, I've done it quite a bit now, like, you know, just pushing things, like sometimes getting a hard art house movie in there, or just a movie that I really love that, you know, most people like, you know, that how's that fit with, like, you know, showing, like, you know, Burial Ground and joysticks and things like that. You know, something like Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, like one of my favorite Martin Scorsese movies. It's, you know, just figure out ways to make it all work. And I'm also going to throw out there, if you're more curious into like what a cinematic void event is, at the end of this video, I'm going to link the video, which is kind of a behind the scenes of like a show day at the Lost Fields 3. It's from a couple years ago, so a little different, and I might actually do an updated version at some point, because things have changed since that video. But it's a good way to see, like, you know, how an event runs for Cinematic Void. So again, thank you all for watching, and until next time, see you in the void. And if you enjoy this video and stuff, hey, let me know in the comments, like, subscribe, all that other YouTube stuff. So see ya.